Movement is medicine, nature is medicine, so movement in nature is like a double whammy. Sometimes we cling onto the banks of life, the riverbanks, or we're swimming upstream and we actually need to just let go. It's kind of like taking a leap of faith, really, but just letting go and let water support you and embrace you.
Having a strong relationship with self and really tuning in to see what's going on in your emotional landscape, because we're so externally focused that we can lose touch with what's going on within us.
The way that we speak to ourselves, our thoughts impact our words, our feelings and our emotions, and then that impacts our actions. So think good thoughts, do good things, and good can come. A river responds to what's going on underneath. It just keeps moving and it actually shapes the landscape. You know, it can wear away the sides of rocks because it cannot be contained. And I think as human beings, you know, we cannot be contained. We're meant to flourish and flow and thrive. So I think it's knowing that when we can go inwards, you know, for those answers and to be quiet, and then knowing now I need to show up and I need to speak up and speak out. So it's understanding, you know, changing the way that you think, act and feel, and you show up in life, that you do need this time where you are the lake and you're quiet, but then you need to be this waterfall just going for it, you know, and this river and this ocean of emotions and connecting and changing things. That really is, you know, to shape shift.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dreamcatcher podcast, a place where your dreams can find a voice. I'm your host, Celine Chenoy. Thank you to all of you who return every week to tune in to become a better version of yourself. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and rate our show if you enjoyed this episode. Ever feel stuck when life changes or obstacles pop out of nowhere? You can learn how to stay steady and move forward, even when life feels uncertain. In today's episode, you'll hear from Julie Lewis, who uses the lessons of water to help people adapt, build strength, and find purpose. Julie started the first women-led expedition company in the Middle East and has led over 70 trips across the globe, including both the Arctic and Antarctica. She's climbed tough mountains, crossed dangerous deserts, and helped her husband recover from brain cancer after losing him at a young age. Julie shares real advice and proven ways to handle tough times, manage stress, and create stronger teams at work. Her stories inspire listeners to grow through some change and connect more deeply with themselves and others. Listen in and find out how you can face challenges with courage and find new direction. Whether you want more flow in your life or need help handling stress, this episode will give you useful tips and fresh inspiration. Hello, Julie. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Really well and really blue, as you can see.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that. It's beautiful turquoise blue, my favorite color. I actually, I don't know if you know this, but I met you at a networking event about 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw you speak, and I have to say, I left feeling so inspired and galvanized to start working on my goals that I had at the time. And this feels like a full circle moment to sit across from you and to speak with you on my show. So I'm so grateful that you were able to make it.
Beautiful. And that's really lovely to know that 10 years later, I'm still relevant.
Oh, you very much are. You have such a powerful message and a powerful story, and it's well worth sharing with a lot of people. So let's get into the main topic of today's conversation, which is related to your latest book titled Uncharted Waters. And I absolutely love how you use the metaphor of water and bodies of water to talk about these larger life themes that all of us experience in our lives. And you were able to seamlessly blend science, philosophy, history, stories from folklore, stories from your own life in a way that just kept me turning the pages. So it was original and a pleasure to read.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah. When it's the second book and you think the second book would be easier, but I found it harder. I was thinking, is this good enough? Has this got enough information? Is it interesting? Will it make a difference? So it's really nice when you get reader reviews to say, wow, I learned so much about water. I learned so much about myself. I'd never thought about water like that.
Yes.
Or I'd never drawn parallels to my life and water. So
Yes.
it's good to know.
As a fellow author, I can tell that you really put a lot of thought into it. It was not just like copy paste, like you really did think about it, and it's distilled from your own unique experiences. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into the details of everything that you wrote about. But Julie, let's start out by talking about your personal story, which was really motivating and really moving. I mean, you've been through some tough challenges in your life.
Yes.
But you've also been on some pretty cool adventures, I have to say. So I'd like to know, I mean, let's first of all go over some of the things that you've accomplished, which is a lot. So your journey includes climbing some of the world's tallest peaks, starting the first female expedition company in the Middle East, and caring for your husband as he was recovering from stage 4 brain cancer. I'd like to know, a moment in your life when your own strength and your resilience really surprised you.
I think really from a very early age. I mean, I went to boarding school when I was 11, and to be away from home with my 2 sisters and my brother being at home, it was like, how come I'm here? But then I kind of slowly learned that, that they thought I would thrive in a private school environment. So you don't realize how, even at that very young age, how you can adapt. All of a sudden the 20 strangers that you're sharing a dormitory with become your friends. So that was very, very early days. And then kind of moving to the Middle East when I was 27 to work in Kuwait, and everybody was saying, what are you going there for? And being there when Gulf crisis happened, so actually hiding and then escaping. So again, that's like, what on earth am I doing? And then, later, being widowed at 36, which was, a big, huge shock personally. And then kind of coming up from that, turning that adversity into an adventure and climbing my first mountain 23 years ago. And realizing that I was a natural, it was like, oh, I can do this, I'd never climbed a mountain before, but I'd set the goal and managed to persuade 5 of my friends to come with me. And then you realize that whatever wounds you've had, you can turn them into wisdom. You can turn this adversity into one big adventure. And from fear to fearing less, thinking, standing on top of that first mountain, thinking, I can do this. I can see a whole new world. And coming up with the name, I'm on a mountain. I'm on a natural high, Mountain High. I'm going to start a business called Mountain High. And at 40, most people think, it's time to kind of start slowing down. And it's like, no, I'm speeding up. I want to do this. So I think, the strength and the courage and the clarity that you get from nature, but specifically mountains for me at this period of my life, was really, really quite surprising for a lot of people around me, because they didn't think I would go that route, to change from health and fitness, sports management into adventure tourism and be climbing 4, 5, 6, 7,000 meter peaks and taking people with me. So I think it was, you don't know your own strength until you put it to the test. I think there's that saying that a woman is like a tea bag, when she's put in hot water, it brings out her flavor and her strength kind of thing. So I think, there's been a series of kind of reference points where I think, oh, I am strong. I am resilient. I am courageous. I'm building my confidence. And hopefully by other people seeing that, it would inspire them or aspire to do something similar. It might not be climb a mountain. Maybe it's move country, write a book, or, get married, whichever, the big adventure is. So I think the strength that I found on that mountain 23 years ago is kind of embedded in with me. And then, times that I've been on mountains where the weather's been pretty brutal, where I've had to make decisions, not just for myself, but for a group of people, then you realize that you are responsible for other people's lives and safety. So it's really, really important to be able to stand your ground and know when to say we need to turn around or we can keep going. So I gathered a lot of strength from the mountains, hence the first book, Moving Mountains, Discover the Mountain in You, because it could be a metaphorical mountain or it could be a real mountain that we climb. It could be a mountain in our head, something that, we see as an obstacle. And how do I get around this? How do I manage this? So yeah, the mountain is a really, really strong metaphor for life, I think, from the base of where you are to looking up and seeing where you want to go and who you become as a result of taking each step, to your higher self or a higher purpose for a very, very different perspective on life. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. Nature seems to be a very big source of inspiration for you.
Yes.
But is there anyone in your life who kind of assisted you in climbing that mountain, so to speak? Did you have any mentors or people who helped you along the way? Because you have, obviously, you've gained so much wisdom over the years. And we're usually influenced by people that we meet. Yeah, because that's what really pushes us to become who we are. I've seen that consistently in a lot of success stories. Is that the case for you? Was there anyone who really believed in you?
Definitely my parents, my father in particular was a really sporty, outdoors, adventure type. So I do remember when I phoned him and I said, I decided to go and climb a mountain for my 40th birthday. There was a bit of silence and he said, great. Send some pictures, So I think, it was very interesting because I'd never thought at any stage of my life maybe when I was a young child, be an explorer. But I'd gone on an educational trip to Malaysia and I saw Kota Kinabalu, the first mountain that I climbed. And it seems almost like a soul calling because it just literally, I looked at it and it had such a draw to me. And call it what you want, but it was calling my name. And I thought, can anybody else hear that? It's saying Julie. And I thought, maybe it's just my soul that's saying, this is what I need to really be one of the turning points in my life because I'd, lost, my husband of 7 years, a professional squash player, not expected him to drop with a heart aneurysm and not get back up. So was this a sign from, the universe is that, please look up and say yes. So I think the mountain, nature inspires me. It spoke to me. And I've been very blessed, with a beautiful family and good friends that instead of saying, what do you want to do that for? That have said, go for it. How can we help? So, and because my background's in sports science, I kind of instantly knew I need to get into the gym. I need to build up my strength. I need to build up my legs, get used to wearing a backpack. And training at sea level is quite different from being at 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 meters. So lots of interesting changes. Yeah.
Do you recommend people engage in some kind of a sport or some kind of outdoor activity to reach that level of consciousness which you were able to attain by climbing these mountains?
I do think that to live a full and fulfilling life, it's important for us to move our minds, with good books, films, documentaries, meditation, but also to move our body because we live in two homes, our body and the planet. So we really need to take care of our body and take care of the planet. So coming from a sports background and always been, very, very a young age, not being able to sit still. My dad used to say, I'll give you £5 if you sit still. But I was always running, jumping, outdoors, climbing, and I only came home when I was hungry. So, so I just think it's important that we move because when we're moving our body, you're improving circulation when you're out in nature. You've got the energy from the sun. You've got, blue skies, hopefully. You've got nature. And I just think it helps clear your head. It's good for you mentally, emotionally. Gives you clarity, and you can be by yourself or with a group of people. So I think movement is medicine, nature is medicine. So movement in nature is like a double whammy.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So you shifted focus from the mountains to water.
Yes.
And you've written a lot about it. I mean, that was the prime focus of your new book, Uncharted Waters. In the book, you invite readers to see water as a source of life lessons. And I'd like to know what inspired you to use water as a way to talk about big ideas like changes, transitions, facing hard times, and going with the flow.
Yeah, it's interesting because that first message from the mountain back in 2002 to start an adventure company called Mountain High, 15 years later, for my 55th birthday, I was at a kind of a crossroads looking for some answers, and I thought, let me go back to that mountain and see if it has some more answers for me. When we went, Celine, it was absolutely pouring it down with rain, and I thought, the message is water. This time, it's water. The mountain is talking to me about water because it was raining hard. And when we were at the guest house after summiting, people were talking about, different bodies of mountains and water. And somebody had said, have you ever done the Everest of swimming? And I said, I don't know what that is. And they said, it's the English Channel, swimming from England to France. And of course, in my kind of adventurous wisdom, I thought, maybe I'm meant to swim from England to France. So the connection to water has always been there. I think it's from a child, but it was just really, again, that message from the mountain. So I attempted to swim the English Channel in 2018.
Wow.
I didn't make it, but I learned so much about water and so much about myself. Water is very soft, but it's also super strong. It gives life to everything, but it can also be very destructive. It's one of the only elements that can exist in a liquid, in a solid, i.e. iceberg, or a gas, vapor, steam. And I just thought, water's super, because, if we could change state or shape shift, or be like water and adapt to the environment we find ourselves in, whether it's in business, in life, in relationships, it would be much more powerful to be like water, still standing strong like a mountain, but actually letting go and going with the flow and knowing that water is a perfect traveler.
Yes.
It makes a path for itself. It just knows where it's going and there's no stopping it, It's very hard to contain water.
That is true.
So I think it was the message from the mountain, the time I spent in the English Channel where I just kept thinking, be like water, don't resist the water, just become the water. And then just thinking more consciously about water. We drink in it, we shower in it, we wash our clothes in it. It gives life to everything. No water, no life. No water,
Absolutely.
no blue or green, as Dr. Sylvia Earle says, that it is the elixir of life.
Yes, it truly is. Wow, I can't believe you attempted to swim across the English Channel. I'm remembering an account that I read by this Olympic swimmer, Diana Nyad.
Yes, incredible woman.
And how she described her whole experience from swimming from, I believe it was
Cuba to Florida.
And she was able to gain like a distinct clarity about her life and where she wants to go in the future. Is that something that you experienced as well? Or did you have a different sort of insight that you gained?
I think it just gave me the next kind of to what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to introduce to my work through speaking, through programs, to get more people to fall in love with water, because some people are afraid of water, and I understand that. To kind of move from the mountains, they're there, but then to move into this element of water, and how could I flow more in my life? How could I let go? How could I be more like water? How could I inspire other people to, express an ocean of emotions or a river of resilience or be like a lake? So it was very interesting, from all the messages from the mountain and the metaphors that I use in business, peak performance and base camp, to all of a sudden talking about water and metaphors and philosophy. You're not a drop in the ocean, you're an ocean in one drop. All the Khalil Gibran and Rumi and Lao Tzu. And I just think, throughout history, throughout millennia, that water has always been a source of healing, of inspiration. When you think we were, our first ocean was in our maternal, ocean, in our mother's womb, in the waters, and the waters break and we come out into the world and we're going, wah! So I think there's a strong, strong connection to water. And sometimes living in the city and living, away from water, we maybe just take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the only time water can be feared is when you think of things like tsunamis or
floods
things like that, floods. And I mean, it's pretty much like fire. Like fire can be a source of warmth, and it can help us do so many things, but it can also be very destructive.
Yes. Yeah. And that's nature, full stop.
Yes.
Mother Nature can be super kind, calming, but she can actually be, really say, I have the last word.
Yeah. So having a healthy respect.
Definitely respect for nature. Yeah.
So you touched on so many different themes that, I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
But so let's start with a quote from the book. You say that you are water, and water always finds a way. It never stops moving or changing. It finds its own way flowing around obstacles. So, Julie, what do you think it takes for someone to trust that they have what it takes to deal with obstacles and circumvent them just as water does?
I think that's really about having trust and faith and being able to surrender. And that doesn't mean give up. It just means to imagine yourself as a little twig on a river and just going with the river, knowing that you're going to something greater, i.e. the ocean. Because sometimes we cling on to the banks of life, the river banks.
Yes.
I don't want to go there. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Or we're swimming upstream. We're swimming up against the current, and we actually need to just let go.
Yeah.
It's kind of like taking a leap of faith, really, but just letting go and let water support you and embrace you. When I was caregiving for Kaylin, during his stage 4 cancer journey, I spent a lot of time at Cleveland Clinic in intensive care, a lot of time very kind of in a red mind. And what I would do in the afternoon is just go home and go for a swim and actually get this energy and this hospital off me, because I don't like hospitals at all.
Yeah.
But then just lie on my back and just let the water support me. And I thought, when there's nobody around to support me, I just come to the water, because the water was, you float.
You float.
Because it's salt water, of course.
Yes.
And so that for me was that was my solace. That was my recharge to then go back to the hospital, just feeling that, my energy had been renewed and that I had more clarity. If I'd had the tears, they were in the ocean can take them, that I come back, in a much better space than I left the hospital earlier that day with,
That was your self-care routine.
Definitely.
Just on the water. Yeah, this whole idea of letting go of control and surrendering to the currents of life is a challenge for so many people.
It is.
Especially in our society, our quick fix society, where we want instant solutions. It's difficult to accept the fact that there are some things that are just not within our power, and just and I think water can be such a great way to remind us that we have to let go at some point.
Sure. And when you think of the water cycle, it could be a cloud, it could be a raindrop, it could be a puddle, it could be steam, it could be this presence of an iceberg. So like the life cycle, we're born, we flourish, we grow, and eventually we die. So there's a water cycle, and it just keeps changing form. It doesn't just disappear. It's a water cycle, and there's a life cycle. And when you think of our different transitions in life, from being a child to an adult, or in between, in my 20s, I wasn't a child, but I wasn't really an adult either. You're still kind of exploring the
that
world
awkward.
and, what's my purpose? Kind of thing.
Yes.
And then, moving to a new country, getting your first job, in a first relationship, having children. There's so many of these kind of rites of passage, from childhood to womanhood, from womanhood to motherhood, from kind of in a relationship, out of a relationship, in a job, out of a job. And it's just kind of not resisting it, but just embracing it and saying there must be something better. When the river is flying through, over the rocks, and then it's just going, it just knows it's going to the ocean.
Yes.
And if we knew in our hearts that, the reason I'm being pushed this way, that the river is taking me this way because there's something better, It's easy to cling on to what we know, what's comfortable. And then when we get to the other side, we think, oh my gosh, I wish I'd done this earlier, but it's just having that trust.
Yeah. And do you think that comes from having a strong relationship with self and really tuning in to see what's going on in your emotional landscape? Because we're so externally focused that we can lose touch with what's going on within us. So what is your advice for people who feel a bit disconnected from themselves?
I think it's usually because we've got kind of information overload, that we're too busy looking what everybody else is doing and comparisonitis and everything. And it's just really to stop, to press pause, to move away from screens, which is directed attention that's filling our head with so many different ideas and solutions of how we should be, what we should be doing. And then really tapping into your heart's intelligence. I think we have three brains. We have the one in our head, we have our heart, and we have the gut. So you've got your thinking head, your feeling heart, and sometimes I just have this gut feeling.
Yes.
It doesn't make any logical sense, but I have a gut feeling. So we can only tune into those when we're still, when we're silent, and when we're alone. I think that's when the clarity comes. I talk about triple S factor: stillness, silence, and solitude, that we take away from all the distractions of modern day life, go and sit by the river, sit on the beach, sit by a tree, be in nature, away from screens and noise, and just really sit and breathe and ask, what would you like me to know? Universe, what would you like me to know right now?
Yeah.
Show me, guide me. And then, you'll find that you've got the answers within you, or you might see a sign, or you have a call from a friend that says, let's go and watch this movie, and you find the answer in the movie. I think for some people it's that stillness, silence, solitude, and for others it's, I need to find somebody that I can have some deep conversations with, maybe somebody like an elder or a sage or a therapist or a counselor. We just know, sometimes we can find it ourselves, and others we need to look to different resources and modalities. So I think it's finding which one works for you, and that depends a lot on the situation, the context and the environment and the relationship, Making a decision, does it just impact me, or does it impact my family, my community, the planet? So yeah, they're big ones.
Yes. Wow, that's such a detailed and comprehensive response. You pretty much summed up everything. So thank you for that.
I guess at
What's your
63
favorite
we have a
practice?
little bit more experience and,
Yes.
and wisdom, really. And
it shows.
The freedom to talk about it.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned several modalities and several techniques. Which one's your favorite?
I would just say that nature is my medicine, and the stillness, silence, solitude. I've just been away for a couple of months, seeing family, seeing friends, had some work in Switzerland, came back, and I just said, all I want to do is just not get on a plane for a long time until November, and just be still and silent. So literally walking on the beach barefoot, the energy of the sun, then floating in the sea, and just being quiet. And then thinking, okay, now that I've renewed, recharged, refocused, then I start doing my to-do list. But first of all, it's like I need to give, because when you're traveling and you're seeing friends and family, you're kind of giving to others, and it's like, I need to give to myself now. Julie needs to receive, and I don't need anybody else's noise, and I will start calling people next week. But I was very happy to come here today because I love the topic and I love what you do, and I think it's super important to share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We need time for ourselves, and I'm guessing you're probably an empath or more, on the introverted side, because usually it's people like that who need more time to recharge and, time to themselves to feel, to do things that replenish them.
Yes. I would say I'm an ambivert. I love the energy of people, leading expeditions. I'm like the mountain mama or the water mama.
I love that.
But then at the end of the day, it's kind of quite nice to just recharge and do some of my little rituals. I believe how you start your day and how you end your day is really important. So, my personal sacred time is between 5 and 7, and people know don't come near me. Don't call me, and that's because I wake up, I meditate, I stretch, I have my hot water and lemon, I'll draw a guidance card, and then I'll go to the gym, or I'll have a swim or a walk, and then come back. Have these little rituals, and people just know, don't talk to Julie between 5 and 7. It's great
you have those boundaries.
Yes.
You have that awareness to know that, hey, I need this time. This is me time. This is my me time. And
if you want the best of me, you have to give me my me time, and then you get the best of me.
Yeah,
and then at the evenings, just actually having some quiet time to reflect, give gratitude. I mean, it sounds corny, but it works.
It definitely doesn't.
Thank you for a beautiful day. What worked well, what didn't work so well, what brought me joy. Did I help anybody today? Who helped me? All of these things, because I think reflecting on your day's experience really gives you more of a conscious thought towards the next day, how you can make tomorrow better, or more productive, or more calm, or more whatever you feel that you lacked from that day. So starting and ending your day, I think, is really, really important as a self-care ritual.
Yeah. So how you bookend the days make all the difference.
Definitely.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the upcoming launch of my new book titled The Nomadic Soul, a seeker's guide to finding a sense of self and belonging in the modern world, which highlights a profound yet often unexplored part of your identity that holds the key to everything from answering your biggest questions to finding deeper meaning and joy in everyday life. Visit thenomadicsoulbook.com to learn more, download a free chapter, or to buy a copy. I want to talk about a concept that you weave throughout your book by Wallace J. Nichols, called the blue mind. What does it mean to have a blue mind, and what does it look like in everyday life?
I heard about the book Blue Mind from a friend. She said, I know you love water. I know you're thinking about writing a book about water. You must read this book called Blue Mind by Dr. Wallace J. Nichols. I read the book, absolutely loved it, reached out to Dr. Wallace J. Nichols and said, I'm going to be writing a book about water. I just love to stay connected with you. So he was super. I mean, fortunately, he passed away last year. But he wrote the afterword and a testimonial on the back because we had a very, a love of water. So the blue mind theory, basically, is something, he's a marine biologist and came up with this after years of research, is this kind of calm, focused, meditative state when you're in, on, around, or even underwater. That, just allows ideas to flow. It's that kind of awe and wonder. And compared to a red mind, which is our normal, operating way of doing, organizing, thinking, planning, compared to a gray mind, which is like, I'm burnt out, I'm frazzled, I've got loads to do, but I don't have the energy to do. My nervous system is completely frazzled. So, we know that we need to be in a red mind to get things done. And if we see a car coming towards us, we're going to move. So that's, our red mind. We don't think, oh, it's okay. No, we move. The concept is that if we spend so much time in our red mind and we're always on in our fight and flight and doing, then it's very easy to slip into the gray mind. But if we're aware, I'm in my red mind, I need to flip to my blue mind, then it would be something as simple as just sipping on this glass of water and just actually being mindful and being present with the water. It could be going for a swim. It could be listening to the sound of ocean. It could be soaking in a hot bath. It could be sat in a steam room. It could be just having a shower and imagine it's washing all the negative energy, anything you don't want away from you. Kayaking, sailing. So it's anything where we are deeply connected to water, and the only thing we're thinking about is our breath and our presence and where you are, not what's happened before, not might happen, within 1 minute or 2 minutes, but just really being present in the now. And that's why I love swimming, because it's just me, the water, and my breath, and I'm just in this quiet zone.
Yeah.
Nothing else. and there could be chaos going on around you, but you're in the water. It's holding you. It's just a beautiful. So the blue mind theory is really about consciously taking time out to be present with water, whether you're moving in it, floating in it, sipping in it, showering in it. So I just think it's super simple.
Yeah, it is simple. I'm wondering, why do you think water has such a healing property? Like, why does it make us feel instantly calm, centered, and relaxed?
I think it goes back to that time in the womb, because we were in the maternal ocean and we heard a shh. And so when you listen to the sound of the ocean, I find it very calming, or you listen to the sound of water. Or when we see water, it does something to our brain to relax us and to calm us. So I think it's the neuroscience and it's the physiological impact that it has on us. That if you see a picture or if you look out to nature and it's all green, that has a beautiful effect on you. But you put some water in there and all of a sudden, your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, you become so much calmer. Just sipping on tea, for me is just a very calming thing. You think, well, that's hot
and you're
water.
English too.
And I'm English. I love herbal teas. I was back home in Yorkshire and saying, why don't you drink Yorkshire tea? Oh, no. I have to have green tea or peppermint or, I like herbal tea. So I just think, sipping on water, bathing in water, and then you look at, Zamzam, Lourdes, all these places where, they say the water, like the Chalice Gardens in Glastonbury, the Chalice Well, that's, special, spiritual water. Water carries messages. It's got messages from ancestors. Emoto's work by saying love to water, forming a perfect
the Japanese
crystal.
Scientist, right? That one.
Compared to saying, you're stupid, and what that does to the crystals, the shape. And if we're saying anything in our head, we are 70% water. So what is it doing to our internal waters, basically? So I think, the words that we speak about ourselves and what we say really has an impact on our physiology, in particular our cellular level of water. Yeah.
So that's why being aware of the way we talk to ourselves is critical.
Yes. Yeah. If you have to, that was so stupid. It's like, oh, stop. Like you need a little policeman in your head going, stop, and say, never mind, try that again. You'll get it next time. So the way that we speak to ourselves, our thoughts impact our words, our feelings, and our emotions, and then that impacts our actions. So, think good thoughts, do good things, and good can come.
Yeah. But we have to have that awareness. It's hard to forget. Especially we're in the throes of everyday life. We're busy at work. We have our things to attend to at home.
Yes.
Mothers have their kids. You can be completely thrown off. That's why that daily practices is critical, right? To keep us centered and connected. One of my favorite chapters is the one where you ask people to figure out what kind of water they are.
Yes.
The three that you list are waterfall, river, or lake.
Yes.
Can you please briefly describe each form?
Sure. I think in the beginning of the book, there was a few questions like, if water could speak, what would it say to you? And then if you were to be a body of water, what would you be and why? And, the waterfall metaphor really speaks a lot, for entrepreneurs or anybody taking a leap of faith, because the waterfall is just going to go over the edge and trust that it's going to land, And so for me, a waterfall is about trust. It's about courage and freedom. And knowing again that, you're going to land in the pool and then you're going to go off somewhere else completely new. The river, a river of resilience, the river always is heading towards, a bigger river and then to the ocean. So when you think of all these rivers in our life, whether that's a people or connections, that we're all kind of coming together and we're all heading to, something bigger, that connection. So the river of resilience, because a river responds to what's going on underneath, what's ahead. It doesn't see a rock and think, oh, I'm not going there. It just keeps moving, and it
Yeah.
actually shapes the landscape. It can wear away the sides of rocks.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of the song in the movie Pocahontas,
Okay.
Just Around the River Bend. Have you heard that one?
No, I
You
haven't.
might like it a lot. I mean,
Yes.
Pocahontas is deciding about whether or not she should marry a suitor that her father wants her to settle down with, and she looks to the river for guidance, and she talks about
Beautiful.
how the river has so much wisdom and
Yes. Oh, I definitely love that.
Yeah.
And when you think of all the twists and turns, and
yeah, she says that rivers look like they're still and they're serene, but they're really not. Like at the end, they just they're wild and they do all kinds of things. So she took her guidance from that aspect of the river.
yes,
That no, I'm not going to be the still
take a
part of the
decision.
water. Yeah.
Yes,
So she
yeah.
decided to take that adventure and just not go for the safe option.
Beautiful.
Marrying that man. So
Yeah, and they do say you can't step in the same river twice because
Yes.
the water's always
She
moving.
does mention that in the
so
song.
that that you step in
Yes.
and it's that water then, but you step in 5 minutes later and it's completely different water because it's moving.
Yeah, so the changeability of the water.
Yes, yeah, and the energy of it. When I just came back from Switzerland and we did a river walk, and some of the boulders were huge, some of them were worn smooth, and just how it changes the water's path. The water's still going because it finds a way. It's like, oh, that's a big one, I'm going to go over that, or I'm going to go around this one. And the energy of the water
It's
was
really dynamic.
very, very dynamic.
Yes.
And then you mentioned, Celine, the lake. And to me, lakes are just like big eyes. They reflect the sky and the landscape. And that's that stillness. So for me, a lake is really about reflection and stillness and observation. If you're lucky with the lighting, with the sun, you can see your own reflection in the lake, that stillness. And I think that is super important at times in our life when everything's chaotic around us. Maybe you don't want to go and sit by a river. Maybe you need the calm, reflective, peaceful lake to just see, what are the messages from the lake. And of course, there's many myths, Lady of the Lake and the nymphs and everything.
In mythology, they have so many river gods and
yes.
Poseidon, the river god. I visited the Poseidon temple in Greece earlier this year, and there's so many of them, so many deities that represent water.
Exactly. Aphrodite was meant to come up from this sea of foam, and the nymphs and the mermaids. So I think
the mermaids.
All,
we love mermaids.
All of these things. So that's really the book was to really encourage people to talk about different bodies of water,
right,
and what are the traits and qualities and how do they show up in me, or how could being more like a lake help me right now.
So these are different archetypes of water, it sounds, that we can draw guidance from at different points in our life.
Yes.
I love that. I want to go back to this idea of shape-shifting because I think it's really fascinating how water changes from liquid to solid to vapor.
Yes.
And it also moves easily through tight spots or wide open spaces. Because I think adaptability is such a crucial quality to have, especially in today's society, because we're exposed to so many different circumstances and environments. So tell us a little bit about how we can develop that ability to shapeshift just as water does.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, just imagine being able to change into 3 different forms depending on which environment you're in.
You have to be a superhero, I think there's one.
It could be something as simple as if you're an introvert and you put in the deep end in a networking group, then all of a sudden you have to shapeshift and you have to become more vocal and more, extrovert.
And there's some people more adept at doing it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I have some friends and family members who can do it, and I'm just like, wow, so it's like a superpower.
Yeah, it is. It's that yin and yang, hot and cold, up and down, masculine, feminine. And I think that social intelligence and emotional intelligence, when you're in a certain scenario, in a certain environment, I need to be more like this, I need to show this side of myself, because we're all got different facets of ourselves.
Yeah, we don't want to be fake, right? We
No.
want to stay in integrity with the core of
Definitely.
who we are.
Yes. And I think that's where I say grounded in your values, your authentic, raw, honest, beautiful self. And then realizing that in certain situations, you need to adapt to that situation. It could be the type of clothes that you wear, the conversations that you have, the different routes that you take. If you're somewhere cold, you need to put warm gear on. If you're somewhere hot, you need to take your gear off. So I think it's different transitions in life, whether it's in our business, in our relationships, or in our life, where, to be like water will always find a way through the tiniest of cracks. And when it's in pipes and it's cold, it freezes, and then the pipes burst because it cannot be contained. And I think as human beings, we cannot be contained. We're meant to flourish and flow and thrive. So I think it's knowing that when we can go inwards, for those answers and to be quiet, and then knowing now I need to show up and I need to speak up and speak out. So it's understanding, changing the way that you think, act and feel, and you show up in life, that you do need this time where you are the lake and you're quiet. But then you need to be this waterfall just going for it, and this river and, this ocean of emotions and connecting and changing things. So I think that really is, to shape shift is a superpower.
It really is. Really, and that's really, really helpful. I'm sure people will find that super useful. So, Julie, lastly, I want to talk to you about all the community work that you've been involved with, and all you've obviously been involved in a lot of groups and organizations. What has it taught you about other people and about just the human race? What has it revealed to you?
I think, when we're connected to ourselves, and then we spend time with others, and then we spend time in nature or, on the planet, and whether it's a community in an office or the bigger picture outside, you just realize that you're part of a whole ecosystem, and that, we're all connected. This is when I start going into like the trees in a forest, because they're all connected through their roots and they support each other. If one needs some extra water, it's like sending an IV drip from one saying, oh, this one needs extra so-and-so. So I think as a human being, we realize, who are my trees? Who are the people that I really feel a strong connection to, that help me, that I help them, that we're part of this forest? And there's just forests everywhere, and that we're really just one big forest or one big ecosystem, that what I say and do impacts the people around me. What they see and do impacts the people around them. What we all say and do impacts the environment. We can see how, Mother Nature is saying, hold on a minute, you can't do this to me, you need me more than I need you, please behave,
Absolutely.
So I just think it's realizing that you might be one person, but you have such an awful lot of power within you to impact the people around you, that causes a ripple effect, that if you then think about this ripple effect, either in the water or the analogy of the trees, that all our roots are all connected, and we're talking to each other through the wood wide web all of the time. And it's how can we be a good human being, a good tree, a good source of love and gratitude and just compassion. And I think we need a heck of a lot more of that in the world right now, when we see what's going on around us, that at the end of the day, we all want to be happy, healthy, have good education, a good life, have our sense of sovereignty and freedom and everything. So it's kind of universal. So when you look at somebody, there might be 10, 15, 20 years older or younger than you, completely different nationality, to completely different background. But I think universally we all want the same thing. That's to have peace of mind.
Absolutely.
And to be happy and healthy.
And you're showing us how to do that. Thank you so much. So, Julie, you've written this beautiful book. What's next for you?
Another beautiful book, but not just quite yet. I'm kind of at this transition again where, the mountains have served me well, the water is serving me well still. The kind of nature-based leadership is something that I'm very interested in, because I would love more people to fall in love with nature, to connect more deeply with nature, to take care of themselves and take care of nature. So I'm kind of easing towards that kind of language in terms of thinking like a forest and the wisdom from the forest. So that would be a book, but next year, because we're still swimming in the water.
Yes.
But just really expanding on the last 23 years, but maybe streamlining it into some very clear, consistent messaging about, regenerative leadership, that peak performance requires quality recovery time and well-being, that you can't just keep going, and lessons from nature. So those kind of themes are coming through in my sage age at 63. And despite not making it across the English Channel, I'm not going to go again. But there are a couple of swim events that I'd like to do next year that I'll channel some energy in, because I did watch the Diane and Naiad movie and think, oh my God, that bathroom mirror moment when she's looking at herself at 60 and thinking, is this it? And I'm going to be 64 next year. And I think, well, Diana and I did it when she was 64 and 65. So, yeah. So I think it's just keep exploring, keep saying yes, and keep developing the relationship with yourself and others and nature.
Yeah, because that is part of your soul, and I can feel it, sitting here across from you. Oh my goodness. And we'll all be waiting. We're all excited to see what more you come up with, because you are such a bright light, such a beautiful source of inspiration for all of us. Julie, thank you so much for this inspiring and this warm, stimulating conversation. Your stories and experiences have added so much value to our community. Thank you so much. And I want to let our listeners know, if you enjoyed this episode, please go check out Julie Lewis's book, Uncharted Waters. And you can buy a copy at her website, julie-lewis.com. And you can also find her programs, retreats, and expeditions on that website as well.